Hey YouTube, it's Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters, here with a little tutorial for the other music instructors out there. I'm a drum instructor and I teach students through online chat services like Zoom, Skype, Google Duo, those type of things. Ever since the pandemic started, I've pretty much switched over from being an in-person teacher to being a fully online teacher at this point. And I thought I would show you guys how I hook all this stuff up to work with those apps and how you can hear yourself, your drums, your voice, the student's voice, and they can hear everything as well. So this is something that you'd think would be very simple to set up. And for certain people and certain instruments and certain situations, yes, it can be. But for what I'm doing, it's actually kind of complicated because what I wanted to do is have my electronic drums, the direct output going out from my electronic drums into my device, as well as my microphone going into my device. And I want to be able to hear the student coming back into my headphones and then be able to hear me talking and my drums, and I need to hear my drums as well. So one way you could do this if you're playing an acoustic drum set is just turn on your phone and you have the microphones and that's pretty much it. But if you have an electronic drum set, things get a lot more complicated, but the end result can actually be much better for the student because what they're hearing is more clear, it's not super loud, you have control over the volume and things like that. So I'm going to show you the few things that I've discovered to do this with to moderate success. There's basically a lot of different ways you could do this same thing, and I've tried a lot of different experiments. And I'm going to show you my latest iteration of this equipment and what I think actually works the best for me at this point. Now, a lot of this may change and evolve in the future. Things tend to change and you have to suddenly change everything you're doing. One piece of equipment will work for one app and not for another app, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to switch over cameras and I'm going to explain my basic setup here, and hopefully this all makes sense, first of all. And I'm also going to talk about some of the problems I had. So let me switch cameras and I can show you in more detail how I have all this hooked up. So here we go. All right, so let's go over this one piece at a time, and you guys can see how I'm hooking all this up. All right, so first off, let's go over the pieces. So we have my electronic drum set, which is right here. And for the lessons, I'm really only using the mono output, just the 1/4" output. And that is running to this little tiny Behringer line mixer that I have right here. And these are actually great. I've found so many uses for this thing over the years. I've had it for a long time, and all it is 4 1/4" inputs with a single 1/4" output. It's a mono mixer with no effects or anything like that, but it does what it does good, and it's really small, and basically I just have it velcroed to the wall here on a couple of clamps, and so that's going there. Drums are going out of there, and then my microphone I also plug into here. And oh, I guess I should show you my mic. Let me grab that. So the microphone that I use is just this headset wireless microphone. It's really cheap that I got on Amazon. And it just has a 1/4" output. So I just plug that into the mixer as well, right here. And now I have my drums going in here, microphone going in here. And of course you could use a lot of different mixers, but I found this one just to be easy. And there's a couple reasons why actually this one is good for this particular thing. I'll explain that right now. And the main reason is this is how I get it into my phone and or tablet, depending on what I'm using. And this is an iRig, and this is the first generation iRig. It's a very simple device. It has a 1/4" input here. It's really made for guitar, but you can use this for basically any audio input. And then it also has a headphone output. I'll explain the headphone output in a second here. But what I do is I plug this either into my phone or into my tablet. Right now you'll see that it's got the regular 1/8" jack on there. So to plug into my iPhone, I have to use a lightning adapter, which looks like this. So I just plug this. Sorry, it's hard to do this with one hand. Plug this into here. And then I plug that into my phone. So let me go ahead and hook that up so you guys can see that. So now that's plugged into my phone, the iRig. We're coming out of the mixer, going into the iRig, going into the phone. Okay, so now here's where it gets interesting. How do I hear my students then, you're wondering? So I go from the output of the iRig back over to my drum module into the mix in, or aux in, depending on what kind of drum module you have. right there. So I actually hear my students and my phone coming back through my module, and I just use my headphones plugged into my module itself. And believe it or not, that actually works. I didn't think it would work, but it does. You don't get any loop, like weird feedback or anything. And it actually works pretty good. So you can do this actually with either a phone or a tablet. I've used both my iPhone and my Android. Actually, I just started using my Android tablet for this because I like it a little better because it's a bigger screen. But if you had an iPad, that would work as well. And I have a little holder here for my Android tablet up here. So I'm always changing this up and always trying different things. But this is kind of my latest configuration. Now, another thing too is I have lights up here. And these are optional, of course, but I can turn these on. And then I have lighting for when I'm teaching right in front of me that looks pretty good. So here's the kind of weird thing. This iRig, you might have seen a video of mine. I purchased a iRig Stream, thinking it would be better than this, which basically has like a digital output that plugs directly into the lightning port on the iPhone. And if you're streaming to YouTube, yeah, it works okay. But the thing is, as soon as you try to use it in something like Zoom or Google Duo or any of these chat apps, the iPhone no longer recognizes it as an input. It only recognizes the built-in input on the iPhone. So it doesn't really work. So I returned that and I just switched back to using my regular iRig, and that seems to work just fine. Now, another thing that's weird that I've run into is certain apps they behave different ways and can cause problems. For example, Zoom, if you're using an iPhone, when you play drums, Zoom for some reason hates you and it just wants to turn the volume all the way down, and it's just pretty much unusable. It will work fine when you're talking, but as soon as you start playing drums, even if you have the level set correctly, Zoom just freaks out and it does not allow you to send a drum signal through to the other party listening on iPhone. However, on Android, it works just fine. So you might run into things like that where one platform will work okay with one thing, and if a student has a different type of device, it doesn't work so well doing another thing. So the one that I found to be the most consistent actually is Google Duo, believe it or not. And I'm trying to get all my students, well, I have got them all at this point, switched over to using Google Duo and using my Android tablet with the iRig plugged into the Android tablet, the same way I have it set up with my iPhone over there. Google Duo seems to work the best. Now, you can use Google Duo on iPhone as well, or iOS. The only reason why I like to use this is it's a bigger screen, but if you had an iPad, that would work too. Other apps that I've tried are Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, Facetime. All of them are pretty hit or miss. Sometimes they'll work okay, other times they won't work so great. But one thing I highly recommend is trying to get your students to all use the same app, because it just makes your life a lot easier. For a while there, I had, one student would want to use FaceTime, another student would want to use Zoom, another one would want to use Google. So I've basically just laid down the law at this point and told all the parents of my students that they have to use Google Duo, or I just won't do it. Because you want the lessons to be free of technical problems while you're teaching, and you want to be able to, give the best lesson that you can without spending like a ton of time trying to troubleshoot and get things, working on, the technical side of things. Also, it's really important that the student has a tripod and has a good setup too, so they're not constantly fussing with the phone or the tablet or whatever they're using on their end. Oh, another important thing that I forgot to mention is this. This is a clip-on wide-angle lens. You can pick these up on Amazon too. And let me just show you how this works. So it just clips on like that. I have it clipped on the camera of my tablet. And what this does, you may not need this, but it's helpful for what I do, because I like my student to be able to see my whole drum set and my arms and legs and everything. So if this is sitting up in front of me like this with that wide-angle lens on it, and I don't have a lot of space here, but that allows me to basically or allows the student to see what I'm doing. So that's really helpful too. I'll post links to all this stuff down below. And it's actually can be quite frustrating to get all this stuff to work. And I'm a pretty technical guy, and I've tried a lot of different solutions to this. And honestly, I could say 100% that it's not the hardware's fault. There's plenty of hardware that can do what you want it to do. It's the apps. All the apps behave differently, and they all seem to have certain issues with certain things. One of the biggest problems, actually, I think, with a lot of these apps is they won't use external audio devices. So you pretty much have to use the audio device that's on the phone or the tablet. As soon as you try to hook up a USB device or something like that, none of those chat apps seem to want to use that, and there's no way to configure it to use it. And the weird thing is if you have one of those, like the iRig Stream or a USB audio interface for an Android device, they all seem to work just fine on streaming apps, like YouTube. If you want to do YouTube streaming, that all seems to work. But as soon as you open up Zoom or something like that, they no longer recognize the device. So it's really the app's fault. If there's developers watching this for these kind of apps, you really need to implement device support for external devices, external audio devices on these chat apps. And that would make the life of teachers so much easier. But anyway, hopefully this stuff all made sense to you guys. I know it's a little bit confusing. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. I'm going to go ahead and show you once again just what I'm doing here. So I'm running out from the mono 1/4 inch output from my TD17 module. Let me just turn it on. To my Behringer micro mixer, which is right there. And then my microphone is also going into the micro mix right there. And I have this is my headset microphone. So both of those are going into that mixer, output from the mixer going to either my phone or my tablet right here. It's hooked up to the phone, but like I said, I'm using more of the tablet right now. But same way though, it's through the iRig, because this will work with a chat app. And the reason being is it's still using the built-in audio device, on the device, because it just has a plug like this on it. It's not like some kind of special digital plug, it's an analog plug. So as far as the phone's concerned, it just thinks you have a headset plugged in there. So I have that going into there, and then the output from the headphone is going back down to my module auxiliary input. And I actually can control the volume of that here by going into my mix input, audio in, and I can control the volume of that there. So anyway, again, I really hope this all makes sense. Sorry for the shaky cam. I just, trying to show the best I can how I have this all hooked up. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. I'll try to leave links to all this stuff if you don't have it, or if you want to do a setup similar to mine, I'll leave buy links down below where you can click on Amazon links. And yeah, so that's pretty much all. Don't forget to subscribe, click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload new content. And I'll see you guys really soon. Have a good weekend. Later.